I cannot take you live to Parliament now, as the House sits to consider some urgent business brought before it.
Clerk at table. Let's start head count. It's very clear to all of us that those to my right, members of the governing party, voted aye. Those to my left, members of those in opposition, voted no. So as we call your names, we will take accordingly. And that's why I say when your name is mentioned, please show your head so that the head can be counted. Yes, may we start now?
Abaka Samuel Erickson.
Please, silence.
Abanga Abdullahi. Abdul Latif Dan. Abdul Salam Adams. Ablakwa Samuel Okujeto. Abuaji George Kwame. Abuaji Kwejo Nyampong.
Honorable members, be seated.
Abuaji Kwejo Nyampong. Abudulari Bazurewa. Achampong Brian. Achampong Charles. Achampong Richard. Akwaku Sophia Karen Edem. Akwa Alexander Kwesi.
Yes, Majority Leader, any problem?
Honorable Brian Achampong, the Minister of Agri. Mr. Speaker, has been in this chamber. Come on. Mr. Speaker, no. Mr. Speaker, when the minority leader misled us and misquoted the inflation, food inflation, he corrected him. Why would you shout that he is absent? Why should you do that? Mr. Speaker, you have ruled that when a member is in the chamber and he excuses himself, yes, and he's present, you know he's present. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Majority Leader, please.
Mr. Speaker, I would fortify myself with the rules of this House. Mr. Speaker, I will fortify myself with the rules of this House. Mr. Speaker, Order 1521, Mr. Speaker, with respect, I would encourage my colleagues to use the rules book. Mr. Speaker, quote, the Speaker shall take the vote of the House in the case of a head count by calling upon members who support or oppose the question to rise in their places successively. Mr. Speaker, so what it is that, Mr. Speaker, first, they are the nays, they are opposing. Mr. Speaker, the rule requires that they would have to rise. So let us do the head count, rise at your place, Mr. Speaker. That's a provision. When we are done, then they do the counting. That is the rule. Mr. Speaker, Please, read the order. Read. Mr. Speaker, it reads, provide, the Speaker shall take the vote of the House in case of a head count. What we are doing is head count. By calling upon members who support or oppose the question to rise in their places unsuccessfully. Mr. Speaker, please, Honorable Minority Leader, please take your seat. Let me finish. Mr. Speaker, so they would have to rise in their place. You've not risen in your places. They call you, you are seated. So that we cannot come. Mr. Speaker, unless they mean I am misquoting the rule.
Honorable Majority Leader, please resume your seat. Table office, you may continue with the count.
Aqua Alexander Akwesi. Adam Hamza. Adam Mohammed Amin. Adams Kofi Idi. Adi Teddy Safori. Adoyal Frimpong. Ejay Kwesi Boateng. Adum Frederick Obin.
A head count underway here in Parliament. This is a rolling coverage of today's emergency sitting that Parliament is undertaking because of that request from the majority in Parliament to consider some key government business. 3-item agenda: approval of $150 million loan. There's also the request to approve ministerial nominees as well as some tax waivers. This is the first order of the business that the House is currently considering, and it's a $150 million loan. There was a back and forth debate. The minority opposed to this. In fact, we heard from the minority leader himself, Dr. Kiselato Fosen, who says he will now report the government of Ghana to the World Bank for how it has expended some $200 million for the Greater Accra Resilience Project. He says that government of Ghana has not spent that amount properly. But Abino Siasare, the Deputy Finance Minister, coming in to say that government has properly accounted for how the first $200 million was expended. The Finance Minister himself promising that he will ensure that if this $150 million loan is approved, it will be properly spent. But the minority will not budge, and they've been asking for head count. There were 2 voice votes. The first one, the Speaker of Parliament said he could not make a decision. There was a second voice vote that the Speaker of Parliament then said that that the majority side may have won the vote, which the minority challenged. And so there's currently a head count going on. Every single member of Parliament will be called. Every member of Parliament will be called to rise up and be counted in their feet, so that they will, at the end of the day, realize which of the side have won. If all that we've seen so far is to go by. It means the majority side may be able to bring all their 137 members on the floor. I see all of them here. The minority as well, having brought all their members of parliament on the floor. And so this is quite crucial. I see Afenyo marking the majority leader, making frantic calls to members of his side who may not be on the floor now to come around to be counted, because this is a crucial $150 million loan that government has said will help in stabilizing the city, which is currently having some of its worst times, currently struggling to match up against the US dollar. So that is the situation here in Parliament. There's a headcount ongoing now after two voice votes was challenged by the minority, who say they are opposed to this $150 million loan, and they do not believe that government has properly expended the funds. And so that is the state of play currently here in Parliament. After this, they will move on to the ministerial nominees, and then leadership of the House will decide if the tax waivers should be dealt with or not. Already the minority side have signaled that because of a few issues having to do with the committees having not concluded their work, they do not think this is the time for the House to sit late into the night. And so those are some of the questions that are now being asked. There's a lot of frantic calls being made by the whips, the majority whips, who are all over the place trying to ensure that all their members are on the floor for the vote. You can see Roxy Nelson, the family who has been appointed by the minority to be checking that the majority side have all their numbers in and that nothing will be smuggled in at the end of the day, because ultimately they believe that the majority side may not have the numbers to be able to end this vote without it. And so there's a major high count on the way. The whips are at work, particularly on the majority side. They need to have all their 137 MPs right on the floor to be able to get this $150 million loan over the line. Government needs this. It's one of the key reasons why Parliament, despite being on break, have been asked to come back to the floor to deal with these businesses. And so it is crucial that they get all 138 of their members to be on the floor, 137 of them, plus the independent MP, the second deputy speaker, who is currently seated also, so that they can get everything they need to be able to get this over the line. The Speaker of Parliament also sitting there with watchful eyes, ensuring that everyone is properly accounted for. So live on Joy News where the headcount is underway. We are not aware if any member of parliament on either side of the house is absent or present currently. We've been checking through. It appears all the seats are filled. If it were to be so, it will mean that the $150 million loan will be approved because the majority have 138 MPs, the minority have 137. If all of them are present, the loan gets passed. And that seems to be an indication there's a lot of comfort on the minority front bench who are really excited about the situation because they are going to get this over the line. So just gone by the name of Tamale Central MP Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed was mentioned. He seemed like he was absent because he wasn't on the floor, and there were frantic calls from members of his side, particularly those gentlemen who sit around him. They actually reached him on phone. I saw Member of Parliament for Bongo, Edward Bawa, making call and talking to him about why he's not on the floor. And just a minute, he's just entered, he has taken his seat and he's having a conversation. So there you see him in your shots. He's in. It appears there's another absentee on the minority side. MP for Amenfi, Honorable Kwachiaka too was absent. They've mentioned his name and he hasn't been around. So the majority chief whip has just walked out as though to go and get him and bring him to the floor. That's the Member of Parliament for Amenfi, Honorable Kwachiaka. So it's a crucial vote count here in Parliament to decide whether or not $115 million loan should be approved by Parliament or not. It's a numbers game ultimately because the head count was decided in favor of the majority side, but the minority challenged that, and that is why a head count is underway. Honorable Kwachiaka, I've just seen the Kwame Aboja who went out come in and say he's coming. So that's the situation here. Another minority MP appears is absent. Helen Adjuanto, so MP for Karachi West. Her name was just mentioned. She was not around. I see that the majority leader appears to have the names of all NDC MPs who are currently not in the House. And so he's checking them. But whenever they call the name of any of them and they are absent, he shouts, absent, absent, as though to gesture to the table office to take note so that it can reflect in their vote tally. So we expect that in the next few minutes, this vote head count will conclude because they are going by alphabetical. They are in the O column, which will signal very soon that this head count will conclude, and then the Speaker of Parliament will then declare which side have the numbers to approve or disapprove of this $115 million loan. So the head count will conclude in the next 30 seconds or so because they've just got into the V column, which will mean they are going to Y and then Z. And then they will conclude the head count for these votes. And then the Speaker of Parliament will declare the vote of the head count. It's about a $150 million loan Garrett is supposed to make Accra resilient to flooding. Minorities say an earlier $200 million that was passed has not been properly utilized and properly accounted for which reason they are opposed to this $150 million loan. But the government also hopes will show up the city a little bit. So the head count has just concluded with the name of the Member of Parliament for Ejiso, the new Member of Parliament, Kwabena Boateng. And we expect that the table office will collate their tally and declare. Roxy Nelson, the family Paul, on the minority side, tried to check which of their members was present or not. He has just concluded his job. He has come to his leaders, both the leader and his chief whip, to account to them which of their members were absent, and also probably update them on which of the persons on the majority side also were absent. And the table office ultimately, who served as electoral commissioners on this vote, undertaking the count, mentioning names of every single MP and undertaking the count, will tally the votes. So the names are concluded, and very shortly we expect that a tally will be given to the Speaker of Parliament to declare which of the side have won. But from our own check here at Joy News, we can say that the majority side seem to have carried the vote. They have carried the vote because almost at least five of NDC MPs have not been present here. And so the clerks at table would have to do the check-in and all that and give it out. The majority leadership are still a bit apprehensive, trying to talk to the officers at the table to ensure that at least they have the same numbers. I don't pray you see there in your shots. Going to Honorable Jetro to tell him that, listen, we have the numbers. Jetro tells them that, no, calm down. We are on top of the issues. We know exactly who is present and who is not. And that head count is seriously underway on the floor. It's just concluded, I should say, the minority and majorities sides have all made forceful positions on this $150 million loan, whether it should be voted for or voted against. The Member of Parliament for Anglo, Richard Kwame Sefe, not particularly excited about the absence of some of his own colleagues in the minority, talking about what could have happened. And they say that this would have meant that the minority would have taken a stance with the people of Ghana. They've always said that the government has been over-borrowing. But almost all the time when it's time to vote, they've not been able to bring their numbers to the floor to get through. Ultimately, though, if the majority side are able to bring all their votes to the floor, it will not make any difference because they have more numbers, 138, compared to the minority MPs who have 137. So, pensive mood in the House. It appears the minority know that they haven't really excelled or won on this count because, like I said early on, about 5 of their own colleagues have not been on the floor once this votes count was taking place, and that will be taken out. And so the majority MPs have that. Afenyo Makin gets into the minority side that they have 7 MPs absent on the minority side. He has a list. He has on the back of the other paper addendum, he has written a number of MPs there. And he says those people are absent. He says ultimately this side as well. He has just passed on that list to the chief whip to cross-check and even probably add some more names because they've been doing some checks. The Honorable Bauer has just walked in after the votes had concluded. But whether or not it will be taken is not something that the table officers, Honorable Bauer Ibrahim, MP for Ijura Seche Dumase, has walked in after the vote was concluded. Honorable Bauer, you see him there walking to his seat. He's trying to offer some explanations to his colleagues as to where exactly he went, that he was not on the floor when the vote took place. We do not know now if the table office will add him to the tally because he has walked in prior to the vote being declared. But we will see when the Speaker of Parliament announces the final tally as we have it on the floor now.
The Speaker, Order 1471 states, Parliament may, by a resolution supported by the votes of a majority of all members, authorize government to enter into an agreement for the granting of a loan out of any public fund or public account. Mr. Speaker, I refer you to the Constitution. First, Mr. Speaker, I come on Article 104. Article 104 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, Article 104.1, voting in Parliament. Except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by the votes of the majority of members present and voting. Mr. Speaker, the key word is except as otherwise provided in this Constitution. Mr. Speaker, in this case, it has been provided in the Constitution, and I take you to Article 181, Article 181 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, Article 181.1, head note, loans, head note, loans. Mr. Speaker, Parliament may, by a resolution supported by the votes of a majority of all the members of Parliament, authorize the granting to enter into an agreement for the granting of a loan out of any public fund or public account. Mr. Speaker, my argument is this. Majority of all members of Parliament is 138. It's 138. Mr. Speaker, you have declared the results. The majority had 136. Mr. Speaker, they are falling short by the required numbers. Mr. Speaker, it's important I advert your mind to this before you make your ruling. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker.
You are not a lawyer, you are quoting the Constitution.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have a duty to respond to the matter raised for our guidance. Mr. Speaker, the constitutional provision under Article 1041, quote again, except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by the vote of majority of members present and voting, and with at least half of all members of Parliament present. Shall at least half of members present and voting. The mandatory provision shall. Now, is there a construction also in the Constitution is there a provision with a same construction which is creating a negating effect on this provision? No. What he read, let me go back to it. 181. It says that Parliament may. We are not dealing with resolution. Don't forget, he first quoted the standing orders, which has to do with resolution. What we are doing now is not resolution. Let's get it clear. If you are quoting law, quote law. What we are doing, the second stage will be the resolution. We are approving the committee's report. The applicable law is a 1041. So now, even if you go to 1811, which is talking about resolution, there is no mandatory provision. It says may. So if Parliament would want to do that, so be it. But the constitutional provision, which gives a mandatory requirement, which was interpreted by the Supreme Court, is what is contained in 1041. So, Mr. Speaker, he is jumping the gun. We are not dealing with resolution.
Mr. Speaker.
We are not dealing with resolution. And then, Mr. Speaker, he himself referred to Order 147, and he quoted the subtitle, the heading, voting to approve loan and international transaction, Parliament may by a resolution. We are not dealing with resolution. Mr. Speaker, so on all fours, his argument falls flat. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, you do not wait. Mr. Speaker, you don't place something on nothing. That is the rule. You must ground your argument on something substantial. What are you saying? Are we doing resolution? Mr. Speaker, if you look at our other paper, Mr. Speaker, when we are done, the secondary stage is the item 13, which is the resolution. That is where perhaps he could make an argument. But even so, he has no case there. So, Mr. Speaker, the result must be declared. Mr. Speaker, at this stage, the result must be declared. And you are fortified, Mr. Speaker. He is attempting to lead you into a certain valley of confusion. Let's declare the result, Mr. Speaker, under 1041 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know my colleague, has made this case. I've made my
honorable members.
Declared.
The ayes have it. Honorable members, we now move to item 13. Item 13.
Mr. Speaker.
Resolution. Minister for Finance.
Right Honourable Speaker, I rise to move that the resolution captured on today's order paper as item number 13 be adopted. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, second.
Mr. Speaker, I second the resolution.
Motion for the adoption of the resolution moved and seconded. It's now for the consideration of the House. Being a consequential resolution, I will proceed to put the question. Those in favor of the resolution, say aye. Aye. Those against the resolution, say no. No. Any abstention? Abstentions? No. Honourable members, I put the question again. Oh. He draws attention towards himself. He draws attention towards himself. Those in favor of the resolution say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Yes.
Right on, Speaker, I rise on order 1513 to challenge your decision on the voice vote and to call for a head count. Because we believe the nays have it.
Yes, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we just took a head count. Mr. Speaker, this application is an abuse of the rules of this House. Mr. Speaker, it's an abuse of the rules of this House. Mr. Speaker, we just took a vote. Mr. Speaker, we just took a vote. Mr. Speaker, we just took a vote and we know the result. Mr. Speaker, for us to go through it again. Mr. Speaker, with the greatest respect. Mr. Speaker, with the greatest respect. Our colleagues have been in government before. They know. You've been in government before. Please. Mr. Speaker, I am humbly inviting you to hold that this application by him, Mr. Speaker, is an abuse of the rules of this House. Mr. Speaker, to call for a headcount challenging. Mr. Speaker, you didn't say you think. Mr. Speaker, on this occasion, there is certainty. You didn't say you think the ayes have it, because you already know the number in this chamber. I rest my case, Mr. Speaker.
Right on, Speaker.
Yes, please.
We are trying to be as reasonable as possible. But the minority leader raised a very serious constitutional provision. And the majority leader rose up and insisted that he was wrong and that could possibly apply when we are passing a resolution. Now the proposer, no, please, let me finish. The proposal, I know, Speaker. I'm challenging the ruling and I'm trying to help you, please. No, focus. Honourable Speaker, I think to be reasonable, we already know the numbers. I've challenged the ruling. Now we are prepared to basically ask that instead of going through this odious process, we can do the same and using the same numbers. But we have to use the headcount and then challenge that using the Constitution and Article 147, as has been raised by the minority leader. That's exactly why we raised the issue. So that is how we can meet this as halfway. Because we know the numbers, we can use that numbers and then allow the Speaker. I'm being reasonable, please.
Yes. I think the point is made is clear enough. All he's saying is that, Mr. Speaker, all he's saying is that the result known should be applied mutatis mutandis. That's exactly what he said. Please, Mr. Speaker, his application was to the effect that the result known, because already we've counted and he knows, that should be applied mutatis mutandis to 13. And Mr. Speaker, I don't have any difficulty. If that is so, we don't have any difficulty. It will give us the same answer. But he wants the record to reflect that that was the position of the minority. So be it. So we should, Mr. Speaker, proceed to apply the result. Mr. Speaker, proceed to apply the result accordingly. He came under 153, and that is what he said. That we know the result already. So it should be applied. These were his words, not mine, Mr. Speaker. Not mine. Yes, not mine. So let's proceed. I agree. You've already ruled on the matter, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Member for Bole.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the passage of or approving a loan is a very important issue. And the minority side, who have stated our position clearly, that we are against the approval of this loan. And we gave reasons why we disagree with the majority people. And the result is that at this first stage, they have won. There's an opportunity for us to have a second stage. And we are ready to go that length because we are human beings and we can change our minds at any time. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to make an appeal that let's vote. And I'm making an appeal to my colleagues here. We should remain here and vote until we vote and vote and vote. Mr. Speaker, we want this to be on record that this amount of money that we are approving today, tomorrow, next year, so many years to come, this side of us are not part of it. Thank you.
So we are voting. Honourable members, where I sit, I agree with you that some of you have changed your minds. Because I only take the decision based on voice vote. And I sat here and watched many people who didn't apply their voice. They were just quiet. And that is why I added any abstention. From the very beginning, somebody shouted. But when I repeated, then everybody was silent. It's not for me to use my voice to vote. I listen to your voices, and then I take a decision. And my decision is solid, based on the voice vote. To be frank, if you insist, I can mention names who sat quiet. Please. That is why I say we are dealing with serious business. And some of you, I don't know. Honorable leadership of the minority, I'm not ready to entertain your application. And so I'll move on. I'll move on to declare that the House has resolved to adopt the resolution as moved by the Minister of Finance. The resolution is accordingly adopted. Yes, Honorable Mutala.
Mr. Speaker, because you've already ruled on it, I wanted your guidance. I have no capacity to question the decision you take. But the fact that, Mr. Speaker, the fact that you observed that some members were seated without responding to your question, it makes the reasons why we should vote more compelling. It makes it more compelling. I remember you even asked whether there was any abstention. Yet still, those who were quiet and didn't respond to your question didn't have the courage to indicate that they abstained. For me, it makes the case more compelling that we need to vote. But because you have ruled over it, that is why with your wisdom and your experience and your guidance, for us to go home comfortably, it will be good you allow us to have the voting.
Honorable Mutaka.
And it is on record that we insist that we should
Mutala,
vote.
sorry. Where's
Speaker.
my friend Mutaka? Honorable Mutala, I don't know whether you studied philosophy.
I did for 2 years.
Only?
Yes, only. In Lagos. Yes, 2 years. You didn't do it for half a semester, you.
I don't know whether you studied hypothetical syllogism.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I did.
You did?
Yes.
Okay. I won't question your knowledge of it. And so we'll end it there. May we proceed?
Speaker, shall we proceed on to item 11 on page 14? Page 14, item 11.